Hello and welcome, listeners, to the true iteration of That's a Good Card. I'm Ya, and with me is the CEDH co-host with the best laugh, Kyle. And he's going to have the challenge of getting me to say, that's a good card. While Kyle will be doing the convincing, I'll be playing the devil's advocate. And now is a good time to also remind you to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us. If you have thoughts that differ from the two of us, leave us a comment below to let us know. Or you can suggest the card that you think can change the CEDH meta. And don't forget to stay tuned for our favorite closing segment, That's a Good Card? ? All right, Kyle, let's get started.
All right, yeah. I appreciate you thinking that I have the funniest laugh. Wait, what did you say? Best laugh or funniest laugh?
Best laugh.
Best laugh in CEDH. Wow. I appreciate that, brother. All right,
Sure.
Let's get started into today's card, which is a super special one. Today's card was recommended by ComedianMTG, aka Ian. So thank you so much to Ian for today's recommendation. Comedian makes awesome CEDH content. I'll post links in the description below to both Comedian's personal YouTube CEDH channel as well as links to the podcast, The Mind Sculptors, which is an awesome podcast co-hosted by Callahan as well. Yep. So if you haven't checked out their content before, which I'm sure you probably have, but for the, 10 people who listen to us but don't listen to them, go ahead and check out the links in the description below and take a look at their content. All right, so today's card is Colossal Skyturtle, which is a pretty sweet card. So it's got a lot of text, so you're going to have to bear with me here. Yep. So Colossal Skyturtle is a 7-cost card. It is 4 colorless, 2 green pips, and a blue pip. It is an enchantment creature, turtle. It has flying and ward 2. It has 2 channel abilities. The first channel ability, the cost is 2 colorless and a green pip, so 3 total mana. And it says, discard Colossal Skyturtle. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. The second channel ability costs 1 and a blue, so 2 total. It says, discard Colossal Skyturtle. Return target creature to its owner's hand. And it's a 6/5.
For 7, I would hope so.
For 7. It's a 6/5 for 7. It's not at the same level as that new 6-drop that they just released. That's like a 12/8 for 6 in the foundations. Yeah. But this card does a lot, and you're really playing this card for the channel effects. So let's talk a little bit about where we see this card. So according to CEDH Analytics, it has been seen in, at the time of this recording, 1,074 decks. So just to give the listeners a good idea of cards that this is around, it has a very similar number of appearances to something like a Limdual's Vault. And if you're wondering where like a Lightning Bolt is and all this kind of thing, which is kind of my Geiger counter for how popular a card is, but Bolt has 3K appearances, so 3 times as many appearances than Colossal Skyturtle. Now, granted, the reason I said Limdual's Vault was because it's a 2-color card, it's like blue-black, and Lightning Bolt's going to naturally see more play in more lists, you know what I mean? But just generally speaking, it's approximately on the same like level of play as something like a Limdual's Vault. Cool, let's talk about the deck lists that we see it in. The number 1, and when I reached out to Ian for this card recommendation, I said, I've literally, I think, only seen this card being played in Kinnan.
Yeah.
And that's where we see it the most. So Kinnan plays this card a lot. So we saw a 2nd place Kinnan list at the European Championship play this. We saw a 7th place in that same tournament. Didn't run Colossal Skyturtle. So maybe it was a Colossal Skyturtle gap to get from 7th to 2nd. But I also saw it in an 11th place out of a 90-person tournament that was running this as well. So Kinnan's using it a lot, using it effectively, and seeing a lot of success with it. Second would be Sisse. So Sisse only had 1 top 16 finish of recent. I don't know exactly how far back I went with this card because I know that many Sisse lists do play this card. But of the recent major tournaments, and a lot of them just happened, I only saw 1 top 16 Sisse list that was running this card.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in terms of just like number of lists playing the card, not necessarily top 16 finishes in tournaments, but Rog Thrasios plays this card a good amount. So when you look at CEDH Analytics, pull up all the deck lists, like there's a bunch of Rog Thras lists. There's also a bunch of Kenrith lists that see it. I know in the Pacific Northwest, there's a ton of Kenrith pilots, and I've definitely played against this card before, so I've seen it up here as well. And then I also kind of wanted to bring up that this card kind of has inflated numbers due to the prevalence of this card in Nadu. So while Nadu was roaming free pre-ban, I think every single Nadu list was probably playing this card. Maybe not every single one, but a good portion of them, very similar to how many kittens play this card. So I think it actually has less appearances overall in our current meta, just because if you cut out all the Nadu lists that were playing this, you know, there's probably a little bit less. But yeah, anyway, there's a good amount of decks that utilize this card, but the point that I want to try to do today is prove that this card should be seeing more play beyond just Simic lists, right? So 3, 4, 5 color lists that are able to run this, you should be at least considering this card. So that's the goal for today's podcast, is to convince y'all that, you know, not that this is just a banger in Kinnan. Yes, it is awesome. But to kind of like broaden our horizons on what this card looks like and have other deck lists that don't generally look at this card take a look at this card. All right, y'all. Are you ready for me to get started into my positives for this card?
Real quick, the art for this card, I love the art on this card. I just think it's so, like, it's a very dreamy effect, and I think it just really hits. That's all I have to say.
It is a Colossal Skyturtle.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
When I think of Colossal Skyturtle, I think they hit the nail on the head with this.
Yep.
So shout out Nicholas Gregory for the art.
Oh, so good.
All right, let's go into my first point here, which is just the meat and the potatoes of this card. So I kind of touched on it already, but you're obviously not playing this card to have a 6/5 flyer with Ward 2. So you're playing this card for the channel abilities. And the channel abilities are great because they're difficult to interact with removal/interaction. It's very similar a la a Boseiju or an Otawara, where the channel effect can get through a lot of sticky situations. So unless your opponent specifically has like the change the target of target ability types effects, so like a deflecting swat or like a return the favor, something along those lines, they really are going to have a hard time interacting with this card. That's the first point, really, is this card can just absolutely come out of nowhere and stifle your opponents from being able to win the game. Especially in circumstances where your opponent has, you know, a Grand Abolisher out or has some sort of protective entity on their board that makes it so people can't cast spells on their turn, which is extremely popular in CEDH. Your opponent feels really protected by those effects, whether it's Dosan, Grand Abolisher, whatever, you know, any of those effects. It can be extremely potent to stop them in their tracks, especially if they're going for some sort of creature-based line where you're just bouncing something back to their hand that they need to win. And I can speak anecdotally from this. When I'm playing my Korvold list and I have a Dosan out, I feel unstoppable, right? I feel like, okay, there's nothing really that can stop me besides 3 cards. It's Boseiju, Otawara, and Colossal Skyturtle. And Colossal Skyturtle's not one that I see very often, so that's really not on my radar. I'm mostly checking for, you know, Boseiju and Otawara to ruin my day, but Colossal Skyturtle can do exactly the same thing. If I have a Dosan out, I'm playing my Warren Soul Trader, right? And I'm going to cast a Chatterfang with all of the mana that I have left. If my Warren Soul Trader gets bounced, I don't have the mana to do anything. I'm going from going into a super powerful winning board state, probably winning the game off that combo, to being SOL, right? just absolutely hosed. So that's the first aspect of this card, and I think that this is the most obvious benefit to this card. Like, this is the biggest point for this card. It's just, it's so difficult to interact with. Do you have thoughts on just like how potent the effect is?
It's really good, I think. I know you kind of got into Magic after this set Kamigawa, but like I'll speak on it.
Well, it came back into it.
Came back.
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing since way back, but yeah.
Came back into it after this card was like. I'm kind of spoiling things a little bit. I'm pretty high on this card, mainly because I was in a draft environment. This thing slapped, right? Like, you can interact with it. It gets things back from the graveyard. No, I think the ability to play it as a ability from hand, right? So it bypasses all that stuff. People really sleep on that. I think that's a great point.
Yeah. It's definitely like a you activated my trap card moment where it's just like, oh, you have something that you can do when I feel protected? That's crazy.
Yep.
So anyone who's been playing CEDH for a good amount of time, at least while Otawara and Beseju have been super potent, then they know how powerful the channel abilities can be. So that's my first point, is channel is freaking broken. Second point is it's kind of just like an easier to cast in terms of pips instant speed Eternal Witness, which is pretty sweet. If we think about it, Eternal Witness sees a ton of play. And, you know, granted, it is just mono green, so like the lists that are playing Eternal Witness, probably not all of them can play Colossal Skyturtle 2, right? Because a lot of like the Sans Blue lists that are green will run Eternal Witness. But really, it's easier to cast, and it's at instant speed, which can be super powerful in the correct circumstances. So depending on what you've cast in the game prior, and you know, this kind of bleeds into my third point. So my second point is like, this is like just as good, if not better, in terms of the effect of Eternal Witness, as in like, if people are playing Eternal Witness, which a lot of people play Eternal Witness, it is good enough for CEDH, then this card should be automatically considered for it because it's just an easier to cast Eternal Witness effect. Like, we're not playing Eternal Witness for the body of Eternal Witness. Like, sure, it misses out on some of the cool like Displacer Kitten lines that you can do with Eternal Witness, or like Saw in Half lines you can do with Eternal Witness. But in terms of like why we're playing Eternal Witness, a lot of times it's for that recursion effect. So I think that this card does the same thing, and it's easier to cast. So that's already, you know, we have a lot of weight towards why this card could be a good include for almost any deck that can run it. But bleeding into my third point is the most common use case that I've seen from this card, barring just like the gotcha, I'm going to bounce your shit, is that you use that Eternal Witness type ability to bring back a free counter spell that you've already cast in the game in order to interact on the stack. Then this happens many times. So like, let's say you early game, you were playing against a Rog, say you were holding a Mind Break Trap up. They started going crazy turn one and presented a wheel, and you're like, okay, slow down their turbo. I'm going to Mind Break Trap that, right? So you utilize your Mind Break Trap way earlier in the game. People have forgotten about it. They're like, oh, he doesn't have his Mind Break Trap anymore. I'm free to roam about the cabin of this CEDH plane.
Wow, that's a good plane.
So in this, the plane is the Skyturtle. We're flying in the Skyturtle Delta jet. But so you had played a Mind Break Trap earlier in the game. Now you're in a huge stack battle situation. Someone's presenting a win, and you have the Skyturtle in hand. You're able to get that Mind Break Trap back from your yard at instant speed, and then cast it in the midst of the stack battle and just exile whatever the hell you want, right? That's a Magic Christmas Dreamland for this card, is you can just pull back pieces that you've already used. It's especially potent in control lists that are running large amounts. Like, let's say you're running 11 counter spells. Sure, not all of them are free, but, you know, the ability to pay 3 mana to instant speed, get back a counterspell, or get back some sort of answer. You could even use it to get back something like a Toxic Deluge to reset the board. You already reset the board once? Well, guess what? We're in mid-range hell. I'm going to have to reset the board again, so let me just rip a second board wipe, you know? Same with Psych Rift. There's so many different pieces that you could want back. It just makes this card that much better. Yep. I guess the question to you would be like, when you see this card being played, because I know you've played it yourself and you've seen this card being played, do you see it played kind of like 50-50 for the abilities, just like anecdotally speaking, let's say for listeners who haven't played against this card a lot? Or do you think that it's like clear one ability is better, and then that's what mostly the use case is, and then the second is, you know, just like a bonus?
For me, I think that I have personally, most cases I'm looking to bounce somebody's like Dranith or something like that, like a creature that's kind of stopping me from potentially winning. Or the other way to kind of that I've used this is to bounce something that to bounce a Seedborn Muse back into my hand that was trying to be removed, right? So that I could try to recast it later on. I've definitely used the return a card from my graveyard to my hand, like a Basalt, right? Like that's a big great hit, right? People are going to try to really get you on your Basalt Monolith if you're trying to cast it in Kinnan. And you're like, cool, no big deal. I have Turtle in hand. They don't know that. I'm just going to go ahead and vibe.
Yeah.
And then because
I can instant speed, get it back whenever I want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So overall, you'd say it's pretty even on your use case for it?
My personal one, like, and I think that's right. I'm going to throw it out there. Like, it's versatile. You're able to kind of hold it for whichever situation you find yourself in. Like, oh, something went into the graveyard. Cool. Comes back in that hand. Oh, that stacks pieces stopping me. I'm going to just bounce it. Stacks Hate Bear, actually. I should be more specific. Like, this only returns a creature, right? And so that Hate Bear is stopping me. Cool. I'm going to bounce it.
Yeah. And you forgot the third most versatile use case.
The turtle itself.
The turtle itself, the big chungus itself, coming down because there's a 27/27 Omnix list about to hit you next turn, and you're panicking, and you're very scared.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into my last point, which is my fun point, aka the point that doesn't really matter, but I always mention it anyway, which is in Corvold, I've actually had myself a Colossal Skyturtle on my battlefield because I was doing a whole lot of nothing, and I was going to die to a massive Omnix list, so I reanimated my opponent's Colossal Skyturtle just to have a 6/5 flyer blocker.
So you took seven life.
So I took the turtle.
You wouldn't lose that.
Yeah, so I took a shitload of life so I don't lose the commander damage. So I have had a big turtle before, and he saved my life. So shout out the Colossal Skyturtle, big body.
Yep, we all on the right on the back of the Skyturtle.
Yeah,
that's funny.
All right, that's kind of my last point for this card. I hope that this is enough to convince you that this card could see play outside of just Kinnan. And like that's the thing is like the card itself, I wouldn't say it has a lot of like natural synergies with specific cards. It's just kind of that versatile piece that can do everything like you're talking about. So it just makes sense in a world where these 3, 4, 5 color good stuff piles want to run another really good piece that's difficult to interact with. All right, that's my closing for the good. Time for you to dig into Colossal Skyturtle. What are the downsides that you got for this card?
Before I dig in, I think that something you said right then at the end made me think like another bonus for this is if your game plan already has a snap or a witness, or for whatever reason you're running regrowth, right? Like something like that. I don't know why you would, but let's just say you are. If your game plan is like kind of using those 2 cards specifically, you could replace it with this. And so, and in CEDH, right, we're always looking to kind of like be a little bit more efficient. And so you free up 1 slot, right, by getting rid of regrowth and snap and replacing it with this.
Okay, snap, yes. You want to guess how many?
None.
I
Zero.
looked this up because I wanted to know how many decks on CEDH Analytics play regrowth. You're wrong.
Okay, how many?
It's actually a lot more than you.
Oh, how many?
110.
Oh.
110, which is
that's
crazy
actually way more than expected.
because we've brought cards on this podcast that have had way less than 110 appearances.
Oh, man.
And in my head, I'm like, regrowth is trash. I don't It's a sorcery. It's not even an instant. It's crazy. So regrowth, for listeners listening, it's a 2 cost. It's a 1 and a green pip. It's a sorcery that says return target card from your graveyard to your hand.
Right.
So it's just like, but it's a sorcery. It's so bad. It's so bad. The fact that it's on the 110 list kind of blows my mind right now. But if you're a listener right now and you're like, I play regrowth in my CEDH list because it combos with XYZ thing,
then
please tell me.
Slot this in.
I would love to know because, to be honest, I don't believe you.
This actually takes me into my point really nicely. I actually kind of set myself up here.
Okay. Get into the downsides.
So yeah, something to really consider is 3 mana can feel like a lot, right? Like one of the things like you and I have definitely talked about, especially with some of the cards I bring, is like, if you have to like kind of vibe and pass with 3 mana up for this, like it can kind of feel like quite a bit, right? And so, regrowth is 1 less mana, right? And we don't it doesn't see play, right? Like it doesn't see play.
That's true.
So
that's true.
It does make you wonder.
But regrowth doesn't have the other parts.
Right.
The other shit that's actually really good on it.
but it makes you wonder, like, how often are we looking for this kind of effect, right? Like, how often are we
Okay,
like that's the valid thing. And so if you're looking for this type of effect, then cool. But like, we're also in a world where like we kind of want it to stay in the bin because then it's already there for like an underworld breach lines, right? And so you're gonna get back to it,
cases.
right? You're gonna get back to it anyways if like whatever you're looking for is kind of there, right? Right. So
okay, so you're saying like that, like if we're trying to get recursion out of our graveyard, there's probably more efficient avenues to do so, like just play breach, lol, and get your cards back.
Yeah, you're gonna get your card back. Anyways,
okay.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
Right. And so that's what I'm trying to get back there. It's like the high cost, and for that effect specifically, right? And that's where I'm kind of picking on the card is for that effect specifically can feel like a lot, and we only see 102 recurrences of specifically to hand for like that type of like effect.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. So for that specific effect, if you're using the channel ability for that effect, it's a little more expensive than you would want it to be. Is the thought process.
Yep.
So if you separate the use case of this card into, when you're actually using the card for the ability that you want to use it for at the time, is it a good rate? And the answer is no.
Now, you can say that, I'm going to go into my second point. You can say that, well, yeah, Eternal Witness is like the same cost, and this is one less green pip, like you mentioned earlier, right? You're right, but I think that decks that are running Eternal Witness, like, I don't think you're going to replace a 1-for-1 like this, and that's not what, like, I know that's not what, like, Comedian's kind of getting at here, is, like, because Eternal Witness is abusable, right? Like, you're going to be trying to flicker that Eternal Witness or bouncing it, and then, like, using that ability, or using a saw in half, right, to make a bunch of Eternal Witnesses and bring things back to
Displacer
hand,
Kitten,
right? Like that whole thing.
Exactly. There's a lot of Eternal Witness combo shenanigans with it being a body that has an ETB effect that makes it really potent.
And so you're not going to do a 1-for-1 exchange like that. And so Eternal Witness is a combo. It's a combo piece. And
it is a combo piece.
It's a combo piece. And this is more utilitarian for sure. Right. And so that's where you definitely want to kind of move your thinking with this card. And then my last downside is hopefully you're not finding yourself in a position where you actually want Skyturtle on the battlefield like Kyle has. Yes, it did save him, but man, we were
you have to be
real
down bad,
right?
You gotta be down crazy bad.
And I can
here's the thing for you, curveball. What if you're in a soul tie good stuff pile, which kind of exists,
right?
And you are running Skyturtle just for the giggles, and you discard it, and then you have access to these animate dead, like those cheap spells. And you're like, hey, maybe I just want a 6/5 beater right now.
You and I are on the same wavelength. I was literally just gonna say, to your point, we do see a lot of Tymna Thrasios right now, right? And so this card can be played in Tymna Thrasios, and I know there are some Reanimator style TNT lists out there, and so there is definitely a world after this.
It's a lower populace, but there are some lists like that. I think a lot of them that do that run like I've seen some run the flash speed one just for like interaction almost, like kind of like the gotcha of just like here's my necromancy on the stack.
Oof,
but I don't think I've seen like a full on like I'm playing TNT Reanimator. That'd be pretty crazy though.
I think early on after the bans, I saw like one kind of like list on like some
when everyone was just like floundering.
Everybody was kind
of what the
of
hell to do. I mean, we still are.
Everybody still is. Like, it's going to be like this for a while. And so, like I'm saying, hopefully you're not looking for Skyturtle to hit the thing. I will say, once it's there, it's going to probably stick because Ward 2 is broken.
Ward 2, baby.
Ward 2 is broken.
It is, yeah. This card trades with Tivit, okay? Just throwing that out there.
Hey, that's actually not nothing.
But something that I didn't mention earlier, just because we were kind of talking about TNT, is I didn't see this card in any TNT lists.
I'm actually kind of surprised.
Backpedal that. I didn't see this in any top 16 TNT lists in like the past 5 major tournaments that I looked at when I was doing prep for this. So I'm sure that there are TNT lists out there that didn't make top 16 that ran this card. Maybe. But the top 16 TNT lists that I looked at, I didn't see a single one. If somebody has seen one in a recent post-Dockside ban TNT meta, if you've seen TNT lists that did really well running this card, please post in the comments down below. But the fact that we're not seeing that is really interesting. And it kind of leads into what Comedian was talking about, which is like, this card should see more play in any Thrasios list, I believe is exactly what he said. Let me see. I don't want to misquote. Oh, nope. He didn't say any Thrasios decks. He said most Thrasios decks. Well, which I hope means TNT. Okay. So I hope that he meant TNT. I think that, I'm going to talk immediately with Brian, one of our pod members who plays TNT and has been kind of devoting himself to TNT. I'm going to talk to him about this card. I know the Sisei pilot in our pod, Sean, runs Colossal Skyturtle, or at least he used to, because he's turtled me before. But I had Witherbloom Apprentice out, Chain of Smog on the stack, and then he turtled my Witherbloom Apprentice, and I looked at him with an angry face emoji. I was like,
couldn't do anything because it's a channel
yeah,
ability.
no, there's nothing I can do. No, there's nothing I can do. So I know that people in our pod like to play this card. I just wonder, let's talk about it now. Why do you think the good stuff piles, the 4 or 5 color good stuff lists aren't running this as much? We've kind of talked about the positives and the downsides now. I was thinking about this myself because when Ian recommended this card, my first thought was like, that's an absolute banger. This card is so good, right? Mm-hmm. And I was actually shocked to see that it was only in 1,000 lists with probably, I don't know, my guess is like 200 of those lists being Nadu lists. So it's even less than we think. Like, why is that? Like, is the card quality of 4 and 5 color lists really that good that you don't see Colossal Skyturtle? That seems wild to me because I think all of those lists are chomping at the bit to playing an Otawara or playing a Boseiju. And that's in the high color lists where mana fixing is actually kind of a problem. Like, it's not really a problem, but it's more of a problem than in lower color lists. And nobody ever questions Otawara or Boseiju. So why do we question Colossal Skyturtle?
I do think that card quality for those piles is pretty good. I've played a lot of those piles, and so you do find these in the lower, kind of like the more 3 and 2, because you're looking for different effects or multiple of the same effect. But I think like with the meta, I was looking at a tweet earlier from a person that has been on TNT for a long time now, even through the bad times, right? Like they've been on it for, I think they said like
an OG
years,
TNT,
right? An OG TNT,
sure.
And like they're at a point where the card quality is like, it seems like it's so good for them that they don't run. The two that stood out to me was Seedboard Muse and the One Ring.
Okay.
And so when you
those are value pieces.
When you ask the question, right, I think that like it's becoming more difficult to kind of figure out what to slot in and out. And so I think what we're trying to say though is like test, right? Start testing, start adding in these cards, and like the suggestion is like to look for the effects that you're wanting and like kind of put that in there. Like it's one card out of 99 or 98, and chances are like, I don't know, like Palantir, I'm not going to see it in any of the games I've played, even though I want to have a real educated opinion on this, right? Because you may not see it for a while. And so I think do you think, go ahead.
I was going to say something we didn't talk about in the downsides. Do you think that because it's not like a hard stop on things and it's just a bounce, like do you think it's just like people don't value bounce effects enough in CEDH? Because they're like, we have so much mana, people can just recast the thing?
I think it's an overcorrection potentially. I find myself doing it because we don't have a Dockside to bounce anymore. So we kind of maybe are going to look at a card like this and say, oh, there's nothing I really want to bounce anymore, so I don't really need this type of effect. But like there's still a lot of like good things to bounce, right? And to be able to bounce somebody's win piece, like your Witherbloom, right?
But you're not hard stopping it, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the point I'm trying to get at. Is like sure, in my anecdotal story, it's like Sean bounced my Witherbloom Apprentice back to my hand. It's like I still have that Witherbloom Apprentice.
Correct.
But I'm not completely like dead in the water because my thing was simply bounced. Right. So that's something I considered as well, is like why people aren't looking at this. But anyway, I want to get into what point of mind that you think is the best positive for Colossal Skyturtle and why you think more lists should be testing this card.
It's a channel ability. It's so good. It's
low-hanging fruit, yeah? You're taking the low-hanging fruit?
Because it's that good.
Yeah,
really,
it's that good.
It's
like every time
good.
we review a split-second card, we're just like, sheesh,
yeah.
split-second's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's that good. Like, it is, like, yeah, we can talk about all the other things, but, like, being uncounterable, being at instant speed, being, again, like, the number of cards that can hit this is so small. Like, okay, cool.
Sure.
Stifle. All right. Cool. Right? That's it.
Nice.
And, like, maybe a deflecting swat. All right, Kyle. What point of mind do you think supports for why do you think this card isn't being played more?
So I think it's kind of like the first part of your first point, which is just like the decks that want to be playing this have to hold up mana, and they have to hold up a good amount of mana consistently. And sure, 4 rate, 3 mana to bring things back from the graveyard is a little low. That's tough. 2 mana to bounce something, that's a little low, especially when a lot of times in CEDH what we have access to is free or 1 cost kill the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
So only a bounce for 2 mana, the rate's pretty tough. But the reason why this card, like, even though those rates are so bad in comparison to a lot of the effects that we have in CEDH, I think that it's kind of outshined by just how damn powerful Channel is. Mm-hmm. But that's definitely your best point, is like when you're looking at this from in a vacuum of, you know, how good is the effect that I'm getting for the mana that I'm paying, it's pretty weak. It's not what we're looking for. It's kind of similar to my thoughts on Trickbind, which I love Trickbind as a card, but the reason that we don't see it played as much is just like it's more expensive than Stifle. Yep. It's twice as expensive, right? Trickbind, for those listeners who don't know, is 1 and a blue. I don't have the card up, but I'm 99% sure I know what it is. 1 and a blue, and it says counter, or it has split second, and then it says counter target activated or triggered ability. And then it says that ability can't be can't be used the rest of the turn. Is that right, y'all? Let's see if I got it right.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Counter target activated or triggered ability. If a permanent's ability is countered this way, activated abilities of that permanent can't be played this turn. For 1 and a blue.
Sure. That was pretty good. That was pretty close.
Damn.
But the reason that card doesn't see play as much is because at the rate of what we're trying to do, there's lower cost cards that do the same thing.
Yep.
Something like a Stifle. And does Stifle see play? No, because the effect itself, you know, is unprotected. It's not that, you know, it's not going to continue to persist on the creature like Trickbind does. Like, I actually think we see more Trickbind than we do Stifle, but Trickbind's in this weird place where because of the mana cost and because there's a baseline cost for the same effect, it's difficult to want to be drawn to that card. Mm-hmm. But I've kind of gone on a huge tangent, but basically TLDR, in a vacuum, for the effect that you're getting, it's kind of expensive. That's your best point.
I mean, yeah, and it's 2 effects, right? Like the other one for returning target creature to its hand, and then like it's both, right? It's both of those effects combined.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's a bounce or the Ewit effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time. Ask me the question.
All right, y'all. Were you convinced? Is Colossal Skyturtle a good card?
Yes. I didn't even make you guys.
Damn, that was
dramatic.
quick.
Yeah, I know. No. Like, I had to really dig to like, I'm pretty high on this card in general. I think that it is.
You throwing it in Najila?
I would consider it.
Sure. Put you on the spot.
Right. I would. Consider it for sure.
I want you to test it. I challenge you to test it.
I'm on
5 games minimum.
I'm on a Rakdos kick right now, so yeah, I will try it though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And to your point about like, I thought about this when I wrote this. So the counter to my own point, right? The reason I think like 3
you countered your own point because you were ready for. You're like, I barely believe in my own points. Oh right.
No, I believed in it. 3 mana does feel high, but. And the reason I think Ian is saying that we should play this more in Thrasios decks, right? Thrasios is looking to pass anyways, right? Thrasios Passios is a term for a reason, right? Like you're playing it in blue, you're going to try to draw cards, You're probably trying to sneak in a Seedborn Muse, so you're holding up anyways. That's kind of the game plan, so that you can do things at instant speed. So if you're already going to be Thrasiosing and Passiosing, that was really difficult to say, you should consider Colossal Skyturtle, because you're going to have more things that you can try to do on your opponent's turns, right? Which is like something they don't always see coming.
You're not losing out on the value of not developing in your main phase on your turn, because you're already just going to pay 4 and
draw cards.
Do the Thrasios thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I'm glad we got you there, yeah. Colossal Skyturtle, that's a good card. You heard it here, folks. All right, y'all. If you haven't played our favorite closing segment, that's a good card, ? You are in luck, because we are about to show you the best game in any CEDH podcast. I don't know if that's true or not.
We're saying it is.
But
we're saying it is.
We're saying it is. Anyway, what we're going to do is I'm going to provide Ya the name of an obscure Magic card. Hopefully one he's never heard of before. And it's going to be his job, as well as yours, the listener, to guess everything about that card. We're talking color, type, cost, everything about it. All right, Ya, are you ready for your card?
Let's go.
Your card is Heroes Resolve.
Heroes Resolve absolutely sounds like a green card. Oh,
okay.
Maybe white. Oh, boy.
Okay.
Oh, no. Is this a Celestia?
You were so confident,
Heroes
and then you
Resolve?
became so unconfident in a matter of 2 seconds.
Is this the coward's dilemma I'm having right now? Is that a card? All right. Heroes Resolve is a green card. I'm just going to go with my gut. It is going to cost 1 and 2 green pips.
Okay.
we almost never. I'm trying to go against almost everything we always do. We always do like some generic amount of mana and then 1 of those pips. So
you think so? Okay.
We do a lot. I do a lot. It is Heroes Resolve is an instant. It's going to be like a combat trick. And it's going to have for 2 and oh my god, I said what? I said 2 green and 1. Okay, so it's going to have split second. Broken.
Wait, so it's 2 green and a white? Is that what you said?
2 green and 1.
No, 2 green and 1.
1 and 2 green.
2 green and 1.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 and 2 green. So it's a 3 mana split second combat trick instant.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Okay. It's an instant.
This better be nuts.
Oh, and since I'm already in the hole, I'm going to say it's an instant tribal. Instant tribal.
Into what tribe?
I don't know. I don't think is that a thing?
Normally, I think normally it goes like tribal instant, and then it goes dash, and then it says like goblin or like dash like
warrior.
Elf, I think
Warrior.
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 I don't think. Okay, sure.
Warrior, and then it's gonna say target creature gets +2/+2 till end of turn.
Okay.
And when it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to another target creature.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It's really broken, right? For 2 green and 1.
That's actually kind of cool.
Right?
I was going to say, wow, so it's a split second giant growth that's worse than giant growth. But no, okay, it has a secondary effect. Okay, I like that. Is there any flavor text or what's the art that you're imagining for Heroes Resolve?
Oh, it's definitely like a warrior, right? Probably an elf warrior since it's green. It's like an elf warrior.
Okay.
And he's dashing towards the enemy with like kind of slung low with the sword down to the side, and he's going to charge into some orcs.
Ooh, he's about to do some sort of like upward slice.
Yeah, and
kind of move.
Yeah. And then the flavor text is going to be something like elf name here.
Just think of an elf. How about like Keebler?
The
Keebler elves.
Oh my God. Keebler felt his nerves settle as he realized his fate.
Quote.
Keebler the elf.
He speaks in third person.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the guy's he's resolved to die, right? And so, God. I know, it got dark. I'm so sorry. All right, end my misery. Keebler, the elf.
Oh my God, I'm like actually crying right now. Keebler, and not only is Keebler the elf Heroes Resolve, but he speaks in third person. Okay. Okay.
Oh my god, what are we?
Okay, so what a banger. Okay, so Hero's Resolve is a white card.
Oh man.
Womp, womp, womp. So Hero's Resolve is 2 mana.
Okay.
It is 1 colorless and 1 white pip.
Mhm.
It is an enchantment
Oh, God.
aura.
Oh my god.
The original printing is actually enchant creature, but I'm reading the
Okay.
errata
Yeah,
text. It says, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+5.
Holy shit.
AKA the BBL enchantment aura and increases the booty by 5. That's
God,
crazy.
that's crazy. That guy is not dying.
So, yeah. So, enchanted creature gets +1/+5.
Okay.
The art is like a warrior type, okay?
Mm.
Holding a sword. It looks like he's protecting someone behind him, and it looks like from both sides of the art, there's like these skeleton-looking spooky creatures that look like they're about to attack this warrior. And then the flavor text reads, destiny, chance, fate, fortune. They're all just ways of claiming your success without claiming your failures. Quote, Gerard of the Weatherlight.
I thought you were reading a perfume commercial to me. That's literally what it said.
Dior Sauvage.
Destiny, chance, fate.
Chanel. No, after all that, it was a fucking car commercial.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
Mazda.
Mazda.
Buy the new Mazda.
Yeah. Oh wow, I was way off, but it's okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh,
That's
that
so
was a
good.
fun one, folks. I can't wait to have to try to draw this warrior creature in paint.
Heroes Resolve. Oh wow.
Keebler the elf.
Keebler the elf.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode on Colossal Skyturtle. Please direct your attention to the description down below where you'll find links to Comedian's personal YouTube channel as well as the Mind Sculptors podcast. Also, you'll find a link to our Linktree where we post all of our links to everywhere that we post our podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, as well as links to our Patreon and Discord. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube video down below. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify, like it on there as well.
Thank you.
Leave us a rating.
Please.
It'll help a lot. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we will see you next Monday. Bye.
Until then, bye.